The following program does not necessarily represent the views of the Trinity Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to this edition of Joy in Our Town. I'm Ann Farrell Tata, your host, and today I am so excited to welcome my guest, Dana Wynn Steele. She is the founder of Homestead Ranch, and our issue today is safety, and our topic is human trafficking. And Dana not only is the founder and executive director of Homestead Ranch, she is an attorney, she's an author, she's a mother. She and her husband are a mother of 16 children, and I can't be more excited to be here with you today.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
So you are introducing something that I didn't even know we had in our community. So I'm so excited to hear about Homestead Ranch. Can you tell us about it and how it all came to be?
Well, I became involved in the issue of human trafficking about 7 or 8 years ago. I was working as an attorney, just pro bono, helping kids who are brought to the States for trafficking purposes. So they were all foreign kids, but through that became aware of the trafficking problem that's going on in the United States, and then of course smaller and smaller into our community. So as I continued working with the kids that were being trafficked here and abroad coming here, I realized that there's no place for young girls and young women to go once they've been rescued. So that's why we started the ranch.
I really want to hear about the Homestead Ranch, but since you brought that up, can you talk a little bit about the problem, not only in the United States, but specifically here in Hampton Roads?
Yes, I think that people get the impression that human trafficking is either going on in another country or that it's going on only in large cities across the U.S., and it's not true, unfortunately. It goes on in every small community, every large community, so it's going on in Isle of Wight and Suffolk and Franklin. It's going on in our larger cities as well, Norfolk especially, Virginia Beach. There are girls that have been trafficked for years in some of these areas, Newport News, Hampton.
That is horrible. Is it only, it's not sexual only, right? Aren't there other, it could be, as far as house cleaning and other things as well, or is this only sexual?
Well, there's 3 kinds of trafficking. There is sex trafficking, that's what everybody's most familiar with. There's also household slavery, which is what you just mentioned, and there's actually quite a bit of that, particularly in Virginia Beach, and that usually is in larger communities. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen in smaller communities, but it's easier to hide in larger communities. And then there's also agricultural trafficking, so that's going on sometimes in our communities where we don't even realize it. There was a couple of years ago, I was speaking to a group of women in a very nice community in Chesapeake, and they said, we think this is happening with a builder down the road. And sure enough, the sheriff's department got involved after I contacted them, and he was trafficking a group of Central American men. So it's kind of agricultural / building.
So agriculture, you mean to work the fields?
Yes.
Oh my
yes.
goodness.
So a lot of times, you drive by and you see these people and you think, oh, those are migrant workers. They could be. They could be human slaves.
So how do we address the problem here?
Well, we're addressing it specifically with the sex trafficking, although at Homestead Ranch we will take anybody that's been in slavery or in bondage trafficking. I really like to call it what it is, which is human slavery. I think trafficking is a nice, politically correct word, but it really doesn't tell us what's happening with these people.
So you make a good point. Slavery it's always been in the United States. It just went underground.
Exactly. Yes. After the Emancipation Proclamation, we all thought, "Yay, no more slavery," and it really just went underground.
That is really troubling to hear. So tell us about Homestead.
Homestead Ranch is a home for girls who've been trafficked, and it can be any kind of trafficking. We primarily focus on girls in the States. However, if someone is either brought here for trafficking purposes and then, you know, their passport's been confiscated and perhaps they can't go home, like some of the kids that I've represented, we will take them. And we'll also take girls, you know, if they are able to come here from another country that have been trafficked. It's a restoration home, which means that we provide everything for them to get their lives back together. We have a therapeutic animal program, we have organic gardening and canning, we have independent living skills, we have education, so we have either GED or college classes, we have job skills and job training. We help them to get to small part-time jobs and continue their lives, continue to try to help them to rebuild their lives. So we have counseling, we have groups for them. Each girl has their own mentor so that they have somebody that they can just cry to or do whatever they need to do to get it out. And a lot of the healing takes a long time. So we're not a short-term shelter, we are a long-term program, about 18 months to 2 years is the general idea of how long they'll be there.
And it doesn't cost them anything to come,
No.
I'm assuming. And then the mentors, where do the mentors come from?
They are volunteers, and we vet them in terms of, you know, like fingerprinting and background checks. And they are usually people who have just contacted us, or from local churches, from local church women's groups or other groups that have said, hey, I really want to volunteer and this is what I really want to do. Some of them come from the Virginia Beach Justice Initiative, which is another group here in Virginia Beach area, but also in the Hampton Roads, that helps girls to get out of trafficking and rescues them.
And do you call them residents, or what? How do you refer to them?
We refer to them as residents, yes.
Residents. So how are the residents from this area, or are they from other parts? But besides the one, you have a couple from...
We have one from the country of Belize. We have several that are from this area. We have some that have recently we've been contacted by the FBI that are from China and only speak Mandarin. So, you know, we have one girl that is from India and only speaks, I can't remember the dialect now, I'll think of it in a minute. But, you know, so there's other kinds of barriers that we sometimes have to work through as well.
So is this like a barrack style or dorm style? It's probably a better name than barracks.
Sort of a dorm style. The home that we purchased is on the property that my husband and I live on. We have a lot of children, so we live on the ranch as well. There's 2 homes on the ranch. There's 22 acres. We have all the animals. And the house is 9,500 square feet, 10 bedroom, 8 bath. So we have 2 girls per bedroom, and we just recently opened, so we're still renovating. Some of the rooms are still not quite ready for the girls yet, but we have volunteers that'll just call me and say, hey, I want to do a room.
Yeah.
And they'll just come and completely furnish the room for us. It's amazing. It's so amazing.
So how do people find you? You know, like the FBI, how do you let them know that you're out there and that you're a safe place?
There's a couple different ways. We have a group that I've been working with for the last 1.5 years called Hampton Roads Anti-Trafficking Coalition, and there's some FBI agents that work through that or work through law enforcement, and so we've started kind of networking together. Law enforcement and Commonwealth attorneys and some judges are kind of getting to know who is working in this area, and Virginia Beach Justice Initiative, when they first help with the rescue of the girls, contact us as well.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that we are not just for Hampton Roads. Hampton Roads has the problem, but we are here for girls up and down the eastern seaboard. We've been contacted from Nebraska, from Utah. So there are other states that are really seeking to place girls with us as well.
And the restoration home, there are others around the country?
There are. There's a group in Atlanta that has like some small homes kind of all put together in the Atlanta area. There's one in North Carolina. There's a small one in Williamsburg. I think they're still taking girls. They have room for 4. Not all of the homes are a long-term, some of them are more shelter. Not all of them have long-term goals for the girls and programs for the girls. So we really want them to be able, when they leave, to maybe continue to work with us, but be able to go into the community, transition to an apartment. We have a transitional apartment on the property that they can transition to, but to be able to be in the community.
Yeah. I mean, this is just amazing. So the Restoration Homes, is it sort of a network, or is there an agency that, that provides materials for curriculum for different things that you're teaching, or is each one independent and you can do your own thing?
Each one's pretty independent, but we kind of work together and network together a little bit to get ideas,
Right.
to get, hey, which program for people coming out of trafficking or coming out of prostitution, which one works the best, that
Right.
kind of thing. We work with, what should we expect about security or from the traffickers, or how can we work better with law enforcement? How can we get our name out there?
Yeah.
So that we work together because we want to help each other.
Right.
Because we want to, my goal is to eradicate slavery in the United States in my lifetime.
Wow, that's quite a goal.
It is when it's large. People don't realize how large of an issue it is.
I mean, that it's so rewarding what you do, but it's got to be also so troubling to hear. You probably hear, a lot more about what's going on than the general public does.
I do, and some of the girls allow me to share their story with when I'm speaking, or with different groups that I'm speaking to, maybe changing their name,
Yeah.
but letting people know that this is happening. We do have a couple of girls that have been willing to be interviewed.
Wow.
And be in the media a little bit, not necessarily maybe sharing their whole story,
Right.
but being able to say, yes, I came out of this, and
Yeah.
and here's
And there's hope.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's got to be therapeutic for them. And
It is.
It's important. That's an important story to tell.
Right.
Well, can you share a story about one of the girls?
Okay,
yeah.
There's a girl that my family, before the home was open, we adopted her into our family. We have a pretty large family as it is, so a lot of times one more is not going to make much difference. And she actually had been trafficked in the Norfolk area since the age of 7.
Oh my goodness.
She was trafficked by her family members, by her mother and by one of her cousins, and was able to, kind of get out of that.
Yeah.
Was not able to, when she was about 18, she was able to get out of it. But during that time, she had to drop out of school because she was put in a warehouse and chained up.
Oh my goodness.
There were other girls there, and they were made to do like 8 to 10 tricks a day.
Oh my gosh.
So, this was like starting when she was about 12.
Right.
And she had 4 children, first one at age 12 and then succeeding, and they were all taken from her, except for one that was killed in front of her.
Oh my gosh.
That happened to the other girls as well. So, this is oftentimes like a trafficking network.
Right.
Gangs have figured out that this is good
Profitable.
money. It is now. It has surpassed drugs and guns as the #1 illegal trade in the world and in the U.S.
Well, how was she rescued?
Well, it basically stopped when she was about 18. She was able to move out. She held a job here in the Hampton Roads area for years, and finally decided to go to counseling when it all came out. And she had been married for a period of time, just a short period of time, and decided to tell her husband, who then started trafficking her.
Oh my goodness.
So I got involved with it from the agency that she was getting the counseling from, and just went in one day, met her at counseling, and rescued her basically, and just brought her to our house, and then she began the rehabilitation.
Well, Dana, this is such an important topic, and I'm so glad you brought this to our attention. And I know people are going to want to reach you. Do you have a website, or is there a way for people to reach you?
We do. Our website is homesteadranch.org.
Okay.
And then we're on Facebook and Twitter as well, and so they can reach me that way. And
This is really amazing information. I'm so glad you brought this to our attention, and we're going to take a break. And when we come back, will you continue our conversation about the Homestead
Yes,
Ranch?
absolutely.
Thank you. I'm Ann Farrell Tata. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. We'll hear more from Dana Wynn Steele. Welcome back to this edition of Joy in Our Town. We've been talking to Dana Wynn Steele, who's the founder of Homestead Ranch here locally in Tidewater, a home for human trafficking. And thank you for staying with us.
Thank you.
So we were talking about just the different things you were actually talking about one of the girls that is now part of your family, and
Yes.
just that it happens locally, and she was
Yes.
able to get help because she actually told someone, reached
Right.
out. And is that a lot of times what happens, that they finally reach a point that they realize they need to tell someone?
Sometimes. Virginia Beach Justice Initiative has been great with handing out cards and letting people know that they exist and that there is help and there is hope. A lot of times it's law enforcement. A lot of times it's the Commonwealth attorneys. They're really stepping up and realizing that these girls are victims, not criminals.
Well, because to your point earlier about the example you gave, she probably didn't even realize that was, she wouldn't have called herself that.
Exactly.
Is that part of it, that they don't even realize because it's become a way of life for them?
Right. Well, when they've been trafficked for a really long period of time since childhood, that's correct, yes.
Well, and as far as, again, locally, how do these perpetrators find these girls?
Well, the average girl is trafficked around the age of 11, 12, 13. So they're found at schools, at malls. A guy will pick up on the fact that maybe she's a little not with the group. They can a lot of times pick up on the fact that maybe a girl has been sexually molested just from her vibes and the way she acts a little bit at some point, maybe earlier in her life. Maybe a girl who doesn't have anybody at home after school, or maybe is just being raised by a single parent or a grandparent, and they woo her. They begin to find someone, or they do it themselves, act like they're a high school guy, and that they want her to be their boyfriend or girlfriend, and that they want to be her boyfriend. And they start, buying things for her, taking her places, and then she becomes completely enamored with them, will do anything for them. And then they started off with maybe dancing, and then it just moves that way. By the time she's really into it, and will do anything for them, they're able to actually move her, And so a lot of times when kids are missing, girls are missing, this is what's happened to them.
Are they also finding them online? Are these girls?
Yes. The internet has just boosted the trafficking industry, if you want to call it that. And gangs have gotten involved with it, and a lot of people are just seeing that there's better money in it. I mean, look at it this way. If you have a drug trade and I sell you drugs, then those drugs are gone. But if I sell you a person, that person can be sold over and over and over again.
So are these girls, do you think that some of these younger girls, do they realize that they're, because they started out so subtly, do they realize what's happening to them? Are they so,
No.
brainwashed?
No, they have no idea.
That's what I mean. So then how do you reach them? They don't even realize they need help.
That's hard, because by the time they're involved with the guy and they maybe have figured out, okay, he's doing this to 3 or 4 other girls, they still think that he loves them.
Oh my gosh.
He might be the only source of love
Right.
that they recognize. And so it's very hard to get them away from him.
This is tragic. This
It's
is absolutely
horrible.
tragic. So tell us about some of the girls that you have seen that did get help. They were brave and they figured it out, and then they were able to move on with their life. Because that's got to
Well,
be a process. Talk about PTSD.
It is, and the process is a long one, and it's not an easy fix.
Right.
Like, 6 months of counseling and then you're cured.
Right.
The general rule, if you want to call it that, with trauma, especially at a younger age, is that the number of years that you've been traumatized is about the length of time that it'll take for you to be healed.
Oh, wow.
So for a lot of these girls, it's just being able to function and then slowly being able to heal as well. Several of them, though, are really excited about working with some of the other girls at the ranch and being able to pour back and to help the girls in any way
Right.
they can, because that's part of their healing as well.
Right. Can they recognize, like if they went to a mall do you think they now, girls that have been through it, can kind of recognize, oh, that's a target, or oh, that's somebody, like even if they're at the dry cleaners, like would they be able to see it in somebody's face?
Some of them would, yes.
I mean, because that's the other thing.
Yeah.
It's, we're probably passing this in our day-to-day lives and we don't even realize.
Right, and a lot of it's just because we're not aware.
Right.
For instance, I was driving down the freeway about 2 weeks ago, and I saw a car that had several girls in the back seat. There was a guy driving in the front seat, and then it had a whole bunch of girls in the back seat. And the one girl just kept looking out the window like where am I going and what am I doing? So I wrote down the license plate and just called local law enforcement and said, here's where I am, here's this car, it may be nothing.
Right.
But that face looked horrified to me, and they were all jammed in the back seat of this car. It was a Mercedes.
Oh, yeah.
And they all looked like they were possibly not from this country. So young, they looked like they were probably about all in the 12 to 15 range. So I thought, it could be some kind of family group, but it didn't look, she didn't look that way. And I looked at her for several miles before I finally called.
Yeah, but I think we should. There's no harm in at least getting it checked out.
No, they could just pull him over and just say, hey, we saw your taillight out or something.
So who in the Hampton Roads area, do we know, like you said, you mentioned gangs, but do we know who these people are that are doing this? And is it always organized, or is it also just individuals that are?
It's both. It's individuals who have figured out that there's good money, and it's organizations, and it's very hard to prosecute them. Number one,
Why?
because the girls don't want to.
They don't press
They don't wanna-
charges.
right. They don't want to testify against them, or you can't find them. You're able to maybe get the girls, but the guys have split. So,
oh my gosh.
or the madams. I don't want it to be just, guys
Men.
are the only ones who are victimizing the girls,
Right.
because a lot of times it's
It's
other
women,
women
too.
who, they understand the money in this.
Oh my goodness. So we need to hear some positive though. What can be done? What can we do as a community?
You can support Homestead Ranch. We need volunteers. We need items. We have items that are listed on our website that we need to help us to fully get all the girls in the home. You can be aware of what's going on. You can help out with Virginia Beach Justice Initiative.
What is that?
Virginia Beach Justice Initiative is another group that's here in the Hampton Roads that is helping girls to get out of trafficking, rescuing them, and coming alongside them. Like, for instance, if law enforcement contacts them and says, we had to book this girl, but we think she's really a victim, then they send a volunteer down to their jail, talk to her, tell her about us, tell her about some of her options. And just be aware. Contact somebody from Virginia Beach Justice Initiative to contact me to speak at your schools, at your church groups, at your women's groups, to understand and become aware of what's going on in our community.
What do you have to do to be a volunteer with Virginia Beach?
Oh, Virginia Beach Justice. Virginia Beach Justice Initiative has a training program. They do it twice a year. They're getting ready to start it in September, I believe, and this time it's going to be in the Newport News Hampton area. Normally they have it in Chesapeake or Virginia Beach. So they do it twice a year, and it's with law enforcement and with other people that are involved in the trafficking industry issue to help save the girls. And we have sort of a vetting process for our ranch as well that we do. You can be involved in the training, but we also have some other things that we do to have the volunteers come alongside the girls or help out at the ranch.
So, and what kind of volunteer opportunities are available at Homestead?
The mentoring for the girls, just helping us in terms of helping them with job skills. We need people that will help out with the cosmetology classes, electrician, plumbing, auto mechanics that will help to teach those, helping with education with their GED classes and the college classes, helping us with the grounds. We still need a couple of large commercial riding mowers, so we've gotten 1 or 2 volunteers that just come out once or every 2 weeks or so and just mow lawns. I mean, it's
Wow.
great for us. Helping with the animals a little bit. The girls, that's part of what their routine is to
Yeah.
help with the animals, even if they're a little skittish with the horses or the llamas. But just to be able to get them hands-on, and then
Yeah.
of course if they want to ride, they can.
That's got to be, again, a healing thing for them to
Yes.
just. So, are these girls? They are going to graduate from high school? Because a lot of them probably did. They go to high school?
Some of them did, some of them didn't. So depending on what their age is, sometimes we could get them into a high school program, depending on what their age is and where they stopped. If they're still relatively young, if they've just turned 18 or they're 19, we can. Others get GEDs or start with GEDs, and then if they've already gotten their GED or they've already graduated from high school, we can start them with the college classes, or we can start them with the training programs for what they want to do and help them to get at least part-time jobs in the community.
And do they have vehicles, or how is transportation? Because you're out in Suffolk.
We are. Usually they don't have vehicles. We do take donated vehicles that we will help other people that are volunteering help us to fix up, and then they can use them. We are also trying to get 2 12-passenger vans so that we can transport them to their jobs and
Yeah.
to their counseling appointments and everything that they need.
So as far as, I don't know if you would call it group therapy, but do they sort of have a time where they share and talk about what they've been through and share stories?
They do. They share with each other. Our house parents are trained therapists and are able to sort of facilitate that. Our house parents are not their therapists. Their therapists are outside of the home. We don't have any therapy in the home itself, but they do have some group time and some ability to share with each other and to work with each other too. Some of the
Right.
girls that have had a little more healing.
And your home is just 18 and over.
Yes.
So what happens?
Primarily.
So what happens with the under 18? What happens to where do those girls go? Or guys?
Generally,
I'm sure they're
yeah,
guys too.
generally foster care,
Oh,
social
okay.
services steps in. There have been a few instances where law enforcement or generally the Commonwealth Attorney will call me and say, you know, we have one that's under 18, but we're looking to get a different alternative than foster care. Would you be willing to take him or her? And her. We're not available to take boys yet. And it just depends on the situation and
Right.
what we can work out in that.
We're about out of time, but before I give you the opportunity to say your website and how people can reach you, just what should, again, alert community, what else should we look for?
Well, if you know or think you know of some form of what you think might be prostitution going on in your area, I would say 95 times out of 100, it's either started with trafficking or it is trafficking.
So call
if
the
you
police.
yes, definitely call the police. If you know of a girl, like for instance, your daughter comes home and she's 13 and she says, wow, my friend has started getting lots of nice stuff and has an older boyfriend, that's a red flag.
All right. All right, if you could just say your website, Dana.
Yes, it's homesteadranch.org.
All right, well, thank you so much. You've joined with Dana Wynn Steele, and this is Joy in Our Town, and we hope you'll come back next time. Thank you.
This program has been sponsored by the Trinity Broadcasting Network and made possible by your telethon dollars. Your continual support can keep Joy in Our Town brought to your home every day. So write Joy in Our Town, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California,